Hello everyone and welcome to the first video of Sloppy Shabbat. You may be wondering why I post these videos on Sundays. Well, Fridays is when I make them, and Saturdays is when it's Shabbat, so I really can't do nothing on Shabbat. It would be considered work. So I'm posting them on Sundays, but this week's Torah portion is Tisa. Tisa is from Exodus chapter 35:1 through 38:20. If you want to read that story, I would strongly advise it. Now, in this story, it's talking about them gathering the offerings for the temple and gathering the stuff to make the temple and to make the tabernacle of what would later be destroyed by the Babylonians and then be rebuilt by Nehemiah and Ezra. But we'll get into that later. So, in this story, it talks about Moses coming down and talking to the children of Israel and saying, look, whoever is of a free will offering, let him give. And there are people, the Bible says, that were of a free will offering. Now, when I read that, that means that there are people who weren't willing to give. Shame on them. Shame, shame, shame. So, you get these people not willing to give, but I have to stop and think. Sometimes we're not willing to give at church or at synagogue when it's time to give and time to pay attention. Sometimes that's us. So, what about us? So, you get these people willing to give, and then you get two people, Bezalel and Aholiab. I hope I'm pronouncing those names right. If I'm not, please correct me. But Balzen-O'Rourke and Aholiab are sitting there, and God's Spirit fills them in order to make the temple and do work in all sorts of manners. Now, do work in all sorts of manners. That's talking about as far as building a temple and stuff like that. Later on, you'll find out that they go and build the golden calf. But here you see these people making all these things, and it's interesting to hear about all the things that go into the temple, because you think of the temple and you think of a church, and it doesn't take that much to build it. But then you look at the details that God gives his people, and especially not only that, but every instruction comes from God is an exact replica of what's going to be the temple up in heaven, the Mikdash up in heaven. So I can't wait to see what that looks like, to see the temple that's up in heaven, because you have the first temple, which is the one we're reading about today. Then you have the second temple, which is Solomon's temple. Solomon's temple was a lot more grandiose. That was destroyed in 70, and that was destroyed. And then you have what people call I guess people could call it the third temple. I really don't. Nobody really does. But Herod's temple. Now, Herod's temple was trying to make it look like Solomon's temple, but it was not inspired by God, so really doesn't count for much. The third temple is still going to be built. That's why you have the Dome on the Rock. If they were to build up the third temple, it would cause a whole lot of civil war, more than what there already is in Israel, so let's not worry about that. But you look at the patterns of the first step, when you look at the way it was designed, and it just goes into detail about it, and it's awesome. It's so much beauty in this thing, blue and red and scarlet, and, curtains that are humongous. And it goes into so much detail that you just look at it and go, wow, it's so awesome. But that's it for this week Torah portion. If you have any ideas on anything I said or any comments, please, like I said, comment below. This is a comment box for a reason. Thank you. Goodbye.